Hello, happy Friday, everybody. I am trying to get the mic so you guys got them coming. Welcome, everybody. Good to see you all. Hey, Vicky J, there, I see you there. Anne Blaine, AP, Fletchy, Tom, Chrissy, everybody. Thank you so much, Ron, for coming. I appreciate it. Um, Welcome to
Hello.
another fun week. Go
Happy
ahead.
Friday, everyone. Welcome.
Hi guys.
Welcome to Generative AI Friday Q&A. Lots to cover this week. And yeah, welcome. Thank you, Heather, for putting this amazing spaces together. And also on today's agenda, we're going to be focusing on LMMs, multimodal use cases, Google's dramatic release, Gemini AI, and of course covering different tools and their potential use cases such as Gemini, Bing, Claude, GPT, and Grok. I actually do not have access to Grok, but for those of you guys who have access to Grok, feel free to chime in. And yeah, so thanks everyone. Special thanks to Taylor, our co-host, and our amazing panel, Ali, Linus, Rob, Bilal, AP, and welcome everyone.
Thank you so much. And Matt, thank you. I see you down there. We're going to try to get you a mic if you'd like. Thank you. We got you. And thank you all. Chris, appreciate you coming. Let me know if you want to speak. I just I didn't accidentally, for some reason, I decided to go ahead and let Grok do the full roast of me like 2 minutes ago. And I wish I hadn't. So that was kind of rough. Grok it's harsh. I don't know. It's like, man, it's like, sure, it's just joking because when I first used it, I had started asking other questions, and as you go and keep asking questions, I'm not sure how you go backwards yet. And I went back, I tried to have it roast me, and when it did, it was just kind of a quick paragraph. But when I just logged back on, well, I just opened it up again a few minutes ago, and it had the menu of options that you can ask. And I just said, "Oh, roast me on my content and be vulgar," and it was just like, geez, I'm still kind of reeling, um, because it's like and it actually it links. It shows some of the posts that it pulled it from right underneath it. And it's like, man, it's like you sound like a broken record, and it's like, yeah, oh, geez, and man, that's pretty tough. But I'm not sure what the point of that was, other than to feel kind of some kind of way. But yeah, these new tools are interesting. But I thought it would be.
Feeling the same way over here, Heather.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's just like I don't know why I did it, but you just can't help it. You just want to see, right? Like a glutton for punishment. But it's interesting. It's a very interesting tool. And welcome everybody that's still coming. I appreciate everybody coming in for this week. And we thought it'd be a good idea just to kind of talk about all the things that are out there right now, all these different tools that we have. How do we use them together as multimodal tools? What good is it to just have pieces of some? And with the new releases of Gemini and Bard, I was using that some this week on mobile and on the desktop app, and just wanted to talk about some of those things with you guys. But I just want to look at our agenda real fast. I'm sorry, Bard. Grok got me a little bit jacked up here. Um, Linus, you're going to go first. So thank you. Let me recover. Why? What were we talking about? But since Gemini, can you discuss what's going on with the Gemini release? It is
Oh yeah,
released. It's not released.
I mean it's released. I think it's funny that I get this topic because obviously I had this. Oh, where do we even start? Gemini. So I did post that little funny meme with a stingray trying to escape Earth's gravity, then coming flat back down. I think, to be honest, they did a good job showcasing what's possible. I don't think they did a great job by masking it all with it happening in real time. I would say that's probably like false marketing, or maybe it falls under that umbrella. But they were very clear about it. It just feels like they kind of tricked everyone for a bit. But that being said, I would not be surprised if it actually has video capacity to ingest video at some point rather soon. So let's just put that aside. Is it better than GPT-4? Well, I've been trying to run a lot of experiments here on my end today, and I mean, in some cases, some evals, yes, but it seems more like it's a super capable 3.5. Maybe that's giving them a hard time. I don't have access to Ultra, obviously, so we don't really know there. But if we're looking at the stats alone, if we're looking at the numbers, it's clear that they're coming out on top, right? Like they're doing stuff that's better than GPT-4 in some instances. Where I was a bit surprised is in human evals, where it's like scoring worse on 10 shots. So like there's one specific eval where it was just scoring 87% and GPT-4 is like already scoring 94, 95%. So I think like we'll see things gonna improve with Gemini, and I think it's nice to see that they finally got out of the woods because obviously Sundar's been getting a lot of shit, and I think on like maybe he's not titled to the shit he's getting, but I think also it's good that they're finally shipping. It's not easy, and I think it's interesting to see kind of Gemini, OpenAI going out with GPT 4.5 Turbo, and then Grok. It will be interesting to see what happens because the kind of battle between them will create and force innovation for better or for worse. I mean, we're seeing this morning, my time, kind of how OpenAI kind of acknowledged that GPT-4 has been degrading and they don't really know why. And now it seems like they're fixing it, and it seems like some things have been fixed. But it's interesting. We're in interesting times.
Yeah, I mean, let's take a look at Google for a second. This is an organization that makes a ton of money on search, which is a technology that AI is helping to kill. And so we have this. I think what we've seen is some organizational dysfunction there, where there's so many competing priorities between teams under the Google or under the Alphabet umbrella. And I think Gemini's delays and sort of Google's failure to be a leader in the AI space is a result of that. If we look at the idea of transformers, the T in GPT, this is a technology that Google DeepMind, or I believe it was DeepMind, that Google pioneered, that they discovered back in like 2017 or something like that. And that all that API or all that OpenAI has built on top of this technology is remarkable. But Google was like the leader in this. They discovered this back in the day, and now they've fallen behind. And so I think we're really seeing that. In terms of the performance, in my experiments, Gemini on Bard in some cases is better than 3.5, like ChatGPT 3.5. And I think that the model that we're seeing is sort of the more 3.5 equivalent. And so that bodes well. If it's a little bit better in certain cases, then maybe it has a use for us. In terms of the Ultra model, which I think is really what is being compared against GPT-4 in the marketing materials that we've read and looked at in the stats and things, like we don't have access to that. We can't see it. I think some of those stats are a little bit sus, like the one, and I even accidentally shared it before I realized it. There's one where that it shows like the let's see, the OpenAI scored like 88% on this one thing, and oh look, Gemini 91%. Gemini beats Google. And then if you look at what the actual comparison is, or sorry, Gemini beats OpenAI. If you look at the actual comparison, ChatGPT had a 5-shot prompt to solve a problem with chain of thought reasoning, and then Gemini beat it with a 32 multi-shot prompt with chain of thought reasoning. Like it's not even apples to apples. But they're like, well, we managed to get it better by like brute forcing, and I want to see, like I want to literally go and test this the same stuff against the same stuff. So I'm still excited about Gemini. I actually think that there are things that it's going to do that are probably going to be as good, better, or different than GPT-4. And just like with Claude versus ChatGPT, Claude is better at some things, and it's like it's better at creativity, it's a better writer, it's sort of more pleasant to interact with. ChatGPT, more analytical, better with code, better with mega prompts that have a lot of instructions. I use both, every day, every week. And I think that Gemini is going to have a place to fill, especially Gemini Ultra when I get my hands on it. I just don't know what it is. It's kind of a shame that it's in Bard right now and that they have the location data also going in at the same time, right? It detects your location. And sometimes that is going to actually get you worse results. And it's like you can't turn it off. It's so annoying. And it's like, no, I want you to treat me as like a faceless floating orb in the internet and not a guy in Oakland, California. Like, so that's definitely my take. But I think that this launch was a little bit hit and miss for them as a result because the marketing is really intense, and what we're getting in Bard is maybe not what the expectations are looking for.
Yeah, I'll perhaps jump in here because and just share my 2 cents on it is a couple of observations, right? Like first off, just like classic everything, the pendulum swung so wildly, right? Like day one, everyone's like, "Yo, Google's back! It's gonna be so amazing." Actually, just kidding. They faked the demo, and everyone's suddenly hating on Google again. And like I think it's very trendy to hate on sort of like Goliath. And I don't know. My 2 cents on it is, look, GPT-4 when it came out, they showed a bunch of multimodal capabilities, right? And how long was it before we got to play with that stuff? It took a fair bit of time for that to come out, right? And like whether that was for trust and safety reasons, it was like chewing up too much compute, whatever the case may be. I think it's not shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that like tech companies overhype their demos. At the same time, sort of what Rob said, right? Like you've got Google that sort of created the underpinning primitives that are enabling this current wave of generative AI. So obviously, like Google's had a bunch of false starts. I think everyone can admit the Bard launch was probably an L. Like, I don't think it was a smart idea to launch Bard on the heels of GPT-4 with a much smaller paired back model, which sort of like everyone used it and was like, yo, this kind of sucks. And then they swapped it out for a larger Palm model. And by that time, I think the sort of narrative had sort of taken hold, right? So to me, I see like two extremes here, right? There's the one extreme, which is like everything was fake. This is super, freaking, awful. Like, no way. Like, after so long, this is what they can do. Like, oh, it's barely like inching past GPT-4. On the other hand, it's like, yo, like OpenAI is done, Gemini ground up multimodal, it's going to be amazing. And so, like, to me, this is like, Claude 2 was cool and all, but I think we're finally seeing something that is GPT-4 tier. Now, the big question on everyone's mind is obviously like, okay, yeah, Bard is cool. Now, if you're in the free world, I definitely think Bard is probably superior to GPT 3.5, even to Claude in some respects. But it's not the ultra model that we all want to play with, right? So if you're paying for a plus subscription using the GPT-4 API, I think like GPT-4 still obviously has an edge here. But I remain bullish, right? Like, yes, the PR was super aggressive. I have to imagine Google's data moat will come out and show us something amazing. And maybe GPT-5 surpasses all of this stuff. But the fact that they've got, right, like search, maps, like YouTube, right? YouTube. We've run out of text on the internet, right? Like, I think all the open source models are scraping all the text on the internet. Where we'll see the next wave of improvements is going to be in this sort of multimodal kind of paradigm. And what we know about GPT-4 is that, the vision model is like basically a bunch of smaller models working together, right? There's the whole mixture of experts aspect, and then GPT-4 vision, it follows a similar, like it's a bunch of smaller models working in concert, whereas Gemini is like multimodal from the ground up. I think that's going to be powerful. But of course, as I said in my Twitter thread, I'll pin this shortly, is like proof is in the pudding, right? We all got to play with Ultra, but certainly I feel like it's going to be an exciting 2024. So that's my 2 cents. I'm not super like crazy one way or the other, but hey, people love to hate on Google, and I think that will seem to continue.
Right. I think we're also seeing the emergence of this new battleground between like Google Docs and Microsoft Office. Because now we see it within Microsoft, you have essentially OpenAI in the form of Copilot being embedded into all their apps. And with Gemini, and even pre Gemini, but especially with Gemini coming more and more AI inside Google Docs, Google presentations, all these kinds of things. I personally prefer to do my prompting outside of those apps in a lot of cases because it's just a less variable environment where you can, like, you do a prompt and it works, and you can get that process, like you repeatedly get good results from that process. But having these AIs in the apps allows really interesting things, like the ability to give a text command or a voice command and have it run functions in the app, like creating a pivot table for you out of your spreadsheet data, or something that isn't just so easily done as in ChatGPT. And so I think that the new battleground here is going to be, like, not just AI on its own, but AI layered in as now a fundamental, feature of these other apps. And then how does it change how we interact with things? And one of the things that Google mentioned in their release was that their smaller models are optimized for Android hardware, and that they'll be able to run on device. And we haven't really seen how far people can take on device stuff, but in the last year, we've seen a number of technologies that have enabled really small models to perform really well, especially for straightforward tasks that don't require too much context or like insanely long multi-step prompts. And so having that personal AI assistant that can do more than ever before, I think is coming, and they've really set the stage for that, which makes the Apple news recently quite interesting, with Apple, releasing some stuff into the open source in terms of, I think, oh, now I'm probably going to get the news wrong, but like the language, or the programming language that they've been working on for machine learning, and starting to, spend $1 million a day on training for the model that they're reportedly training. All this stuff, Apple's going to slide in here, and I think we're going to see another one of these cases where, like, Apple does it maybe even better than Google, and maybe even better than OpenAI, even though they show up to the race like 2 or 3 years late. They just have a history of doing this kind of stuff. So really, like, this is like 2007 when the iPhone came out, and then everything started to change over the next like 3 years with phones and mobile, and we saw so much happen and companies rise and fall. I think we're about to see that play out again in the AI space.
Who is going to fill in that space there?
Oh, I can go next.
Hey,
Oh
go
yeah,
for it,
Yeah.
how's
man.
it going,
I could
everybody?
talk forever,
Like,
but I just don't.
no, I didn't want to follow
I
on
have
to
an
that, but
interesting. Oh yeah, sorry, you were saying chaotic moment there.
who was
I think
who was just
we're,
speaking?
Oh
Oh, AP.
are we
yeah, yeah.
are we getting
Okay,
Yeah, he
Oh
had his
yeah.
yeah,
hand
yeah.
up.
Oh,
Yeah.
AP?
please. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Chaotic moment here. Yeah. So I think Gemini is very interesting with their different
I think
approach.
we're having
Uh-oh.
technical difficulties.
Oh, am I breaking up?
One thing I will say is, like, I think it's worth double clicking on Rob's point about the smaller model too, right? Like, so Gemini was announced in 3 variants. There's the beefy ones all us nerds want to play with, the sort of middle of the tier pro one that's in Bard today. And yeah, like, the fact that you can have this like 1 GB model you download on your Pixel, and I believe it is available on Pixel 8 Pro for Pixel 8 Pro users. Google has a history of sort of launching these features early for the Pixel lineup, which is obviously their embodiment of how to do a vertically integrated, kind of mobile play a la Apple, but within the Android ecosystem. It's kind of cool. So there's this like summarized feature in the recorder app, right? So like now you don't need to like, transmit your voice data up to, OpenAI or any other company if you want to do basic summarization and stuff like that. So I think that's another very unique, I think, advantage that Google has, the fact that they can tackle this from like obviously cloud workloads, middle of the tier sort of applications you might use every day, like the doc suite, and of course on Android too. And that's a massive, massive ecosystem. And yeah, I'm equally excited to see what Apple does in the space. I think, we've discussed this in previous sessions. They've got so much compute at the edge sitting around. I think if Scoble was here, he would wax poetic about this for a good while. But yeah, at the same time, like Siri freaking sucks. And so does even the autocorrect stuff that they rolled out is still kind of shitty. So I really hope that they step their game up. Whether it's them or other folks taking advantage of their architecture, I really don't care. As just long as like after using stuff like Whisper, and by the way, Google showed that they're better than Whisper too, right? Again, there's a whole debate over like, the 5-shot versus the 32, chain of thought prompting. I have to imagine there was just like an insane amount of pressure, especially given all like, the initial fumbles to just put out a good showing here. So if you go read the actual paper itself, the comparisons are very apple to apple there. Like it's not, whereas the marketing, the landing page, et cetera, seems to cherry pick the stats a little bit more. So, I think that's worth saying, putting out there too.
All right. So we figured out that some of us could hear AP, but I couldn't, and neither could Billawal. So AP,
Yes.
you're
Can
gonna go, and
Can,
if we can't hear you, we're just gonna be quiet.
Now
can
I
you
can
hear me
hear you.
now?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it good now? Okay,
Yes.
that's weird. I've been noticing that
yeah.
Awesome.
lately.
You good? Okay.
Yeah,
This happens all the freaking time, by the
just
way.
makes it so awkward,
Thank
right?
you for your patience.
No, yeah, no worries. First off, how's it going, everybody? So, yeah, I heard all the talk about Gemini, OpenAI. I haven't heard anybody mention Mistral yet. So Mistral, for those who are not aware, is sort of a open source startup. They recently got a valuation of $2 billion. That's pretty big. With I think it was like the equivalent of 500 million USD, so like 25% equity take, somewhere around there. So yeah, they're kind of like the new people on the block. I think the people from Mistral came from Meta, and then they went off to like form their own thing around like open source. But the model is really interesting because it was very cryptic the way they released it. They released torrent, essentially torrents, so then you could go and download it, and now they're available to download on Hugging Face. The weights are, but it's like everyone's like, "What the heck is this thing?" Like if you even look at the tweet, it's just very cryptic. It looks like a Trojan virus, like it looks super sketchy, right? But for I guess for context, Mistral 7B was another model that they created, and it was very good. It was, some said, better than like some of the Llama models, right? And then it was considered the state of the art. So this new model, it's called Mixtral. Or at least that's what I think it's called. What it is, it's essentially 7 billion um, parameter models that are experts on like individual things. So I'm not sure like what exactly they're experts on, but this is sort of similar to how the GPT-4 architecture is allegedly. But yeah, if you think of like you have your model and you have sort of like 8 dwarves like stacked on top of each other and then wearing a trench coat, that's essentially how it is. And like each dwarf is a certain expert in like coding or something like that, right? I might be like, yeah, I think that's a good explanation of it. If anybody is more familiar with this model, feel free to come up as well. But yeah, the key thing is that it's going to run just as fast as a 14 billion parameter model, allegedly, and it takes up only, I think, 40 billion. Takes up as much memory as a $40 billion model. So like, the key here is it's going to be much easier to inference on in terms of local, like local or cloud GPUs. So yeah, not much is known about it right now. People are still trying to like figure out, how this performs and benchmarks against other models, but stay tuned. But yeah, I think this is really exciting because if it is as good as I think it will be, it'll change a lot of the things in terms of what's available out there and for open source. And then hackers are going to get their hands onto it and just continue to make it better. Um, yeah, it's like a big unknown right now, but it's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, Mistral is my favorite of the open source models. So when we talk about these numbers, 7 billion versus 70 billion, this is like a model that's 1/10 the size of Llama 2 and yet manages to often outperform Llama 2 despite being way tinier, trained on less data, all these things. And so just extremely novel the way they put this together. It uses something called a sliding window or a sliding attention window, which is like, how you have this context length maximum of, like in ChatGPT, it's like 8K. And then they've just been increasing it. And now with the turbo model, you have a 164K, I think, max attention. With a sliding attention window with Mistral, they take that 8K context length and it has a theoretical maximum of 120,000 tokens. So like about 100,000 words or two. I'm seeing thumbs down. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyways, they're using a lot of these really novel technologies, and one of the things I love about open source is that they're able to like kind of move more quickly than I think some of the bigger companies are, like Google. They can take advantage of stuff that is more state of the art and put it out there and release in these cryptic ways and kind of like test the waters and get public interest into models and things like that. So I love what they're doing. I think that what we're seeing with the Mixtral, which I haven't had a chance to play with yet, but it sounds to me like first it does like a super super fast interpretation of what is your query, and then it decides which of its 8 models it's going to pass it to. And so I think that that's really the future of all this stuff. Making it faster is like fine tuning all the smaller models on specific use cases, and then making like a mix of really small, fast, inexpensive models that are good at some things, but not everything. I think that's the way to do it.
So when do you expect that we'll see some? It's just kind of up in the air right now that we would be able to use on a easier GUI. Anybody know?
Yeah, I mean that's the tricky thing about this stuff, because they like OpenAI is wants you to go on to chat.openai.com or whatever it is and use ChatGPT and upgrade and pay $20. And so far, I haven't seen any of the open source platforms have a similar thing where it's so easy to just like go and use in a nicely organized way their models. With Mistral 7B, so not the new one, but the previous one, which I'm still quite impressed with, you can go to poe.com, and it's one, I'm going to open it up right now so I can be sure, but it's one like Poe has Assistant, GPT-4, Claude Instant, and if you scroll near the bottom, you will find fw-mistral.7b, and so you can play with Mistral yourself, the regular one, and use it as one of the free bots on Poe. So that's one of the places that I like to use it. I believe it's also still up on Hugging Chat, which if you go to, let me get the thing, huggingface.co/chat, there, like, I think by default there's the llama model, but if you click on the little drop down, usually Mistral is part of that, although I'm not seeing it. Oh, there it is. Yep. So Mistral's still on Hugging Chat as well. So those are the 2 places that you can test out the model. But just know, like, this is a small, inexpensive, fast model that can run on your laptop. This is not require supercomputers, and yet it's punching at the same weight class as models that do. And so what you're really seeing is a glimpse into the future. It may not outperform ChatGPT, but it's like a, I don't know, like a go-kart is racing a Cybertruck and somehow keeping pace, right? Like that's what's so exciting about it to me is just how performant it is, um, versus how much data they trained it with and how big it is as a model and things like that.
Yeah.
Robert, AP, can I quickly ask you guys, either of you who know or anyone here on the panel that can chime in, what are you using Mistral for primarily? Like, is it more of structured data training and information, or is it like narrative, creative? What do you find that it's best for?
Well, oh, AP, you want to go first?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, honestly, so talking about the mixture of experts model, I haven't like tested it just yet. Like the benchmarking is still up in the air. Like somebody just figured out how to do inference like a few hours ago, and it requires like crazy. I think it's like 2 80 GB graphics cards. But I imagine that one's going to be very interesting. In terms of I don't know what the experts are. I would imagine there's like one that knows how to program, maybe one that's creative. So then, yeah, I think this kind of, I don't want to say changes the game, but changes a lot of the things, and like which Mistral 7B was not able to do, right? So, um, yeah, I don't know, but it's going to be exciting. I can tell. But yeah, like I think if you want to try it, probably keep an eye out for Hugging Face. They'll probably have a demo out. I'm pretty sure they're probably working on it right now. But yeah, like for Mistral 7B though, there are some really awesome groups like Noose Research, that would like fine tune 7B models, and then put out really awesome, uh, like different fine tunes around different use cases. I've seen them like ones that are like fantasy RPG type of fine tune of 7B, um, just different use cases, right? But again, like I have no idea how it's going to be with this like 8 uh, mixture of experts model. But I'm really excited to see it. I'll tell you that much. But yeah.
So I'm using Mistral for a few things, but I'm also learning about it because I intend to use it for some others. So one of them is that there's a few different versions of Mistral. So Mistral's like the main one, and then Hugging Face they de-aligned it and created a model called Zephyr or Zephyr. How do you say it? Zephyr. So Zephyr is like Mistral without some of the human alignment, and it tends to outperform Mistral. And this is something that I've brought up on this call in the past, where our efforts to align models around human preference can end up inhibiting their creative potential and their reasoning, because we're trying to force them to think in a certain way, act in a certain way. And yes, it's for public safety, but it can reduce the impact of the model. Um, Now, I like Zephyr because sometimes I want to have a conversation with an AI that is outside of what the AI wants to allow on ChatGPT or Claude. And I'll give you an example. Claude is very apprehensive about talking about AI with the AI, which is to say, if you really want to get into a conversation with the AI about the implications in the future and how AIs could exist in humanity and how they could be incorporated into daily life and stuff, it's there are certain things where some of these AIs now have been aligned away from doing this stuff. And so if that sounds interesting to you, you could go on Zephyr and have a conversation. But the bigger thing for me is that as I understand the capabilities of something like Mistral and its sister or fine tune models, um, like I eventually as an entrepreneur, I plan to release fine tune models that are designed to do certain things for apps for people, um, and I plan to use Mistral or some very similar models to do that. And so I really want to understand how they work, where they're strong, where they're not, and as I build my skills as a data set builder and a fine tuner and so forth, like I think that this is where it's at. And hopefully in the next 6 months or so, we'll see the rest of the pieces that we need to fall into place for regular people like not me to be able to do this kind of tuning if they want to understand how it works and to be able to generate data sets that they can use. Or maybe not everybody's going to want to do this, but I think we will get to a point where, for example, you go on Grok and say, hey, Grok, help me grab all my tweets and all my replies. And then you pull that data in and create a fine tuned data set and go to Mistral and say, hey, Mistral, I want you to learn to talk like me and actually be able to talk like me, not just pretend to be able to talk like me like everything else. And I think that this is where we're actually going to see like really, like we have something that's performant enough that if it could match your voice and tone and knowledge through a fine tune, and it's cheap enough to fine tune for like $1, like why not try and go down that route? So that's where I'm really excited. It's more in the potential than actually using it for things that I'm doing on my day to day. That's still Chat GPT and Claude and things like that.
I wanted to ask, so where does Grok fit into this? And have you all had much of an opportunity to work on it or to use it yet? I've tried to do a little bit with it today just to get see if it could reformat a post for me or something. And it's funny because it actually answered me back and said something about when it roasted me, it said something about Twitter instead of X. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But I just wondered, what do you think? It just might take some time, or like, how would you? I was expecting, since it has the ability to you see all the data, real time X data in the post, that we would be able to use it for like content research or optimizing that. But anybody have any thoughts?
Right. And I want to actually eventually create some content around this, although I haven't spent enough time having just gotten access to Grok yesterday. I think that Grok is underwhelming in many regards versus other language models. And like there's certain things that you might go to use it for that it's like be way better off using Bard or ChatGPT or anything other than Grok. And then there's other things where, and this is where you need to keep in mind what data it's been trained on and what it has access to, where it has real-time access or near real-time access to Twitter, to X, where it can see things that humans are doing and posting about way better than any other LLM, including LLMs, by the way, that have internet search. Because like when you go and you use an internet search with ChatGPT, for example, it's just going to pull like 4 websites and then kind of summarize them and put them into the context window, and you're just getting whatever SEO is, like whatever the SEO is driving to the top of the search result for the AI. I think with Grok you get a lot better sample of what it's pulling in. Although some experiments I've actually been able to kind of see. Oh, I think like if you ask it about certain AI topics, you might recognize like, oh, it's really pulling in Rowan Chang's like stuff. Like this sounds a lot like Rowan. I have a feeling I know where that came from. So I don't know exactly how many posts it's pulling in. So my take is going to be, this is where I want to go with it though. How can we use it as creators to understand what people care about, to understand what's performing well, to get a sense of what's happening right now? Or let's say like Gemini released yesterday, right? We can now go to Grok and say, hey, what is going on with Gemini? Like I'm trying to get caught up. Like, instead of searching Twitter or searching X, you can now get it from the AI. I think in that way it's going to be extremely valuable, but it's going to be a whole different tool. And I think treating it like ChatGPT and comparing it into these other language models is just silly, because I think that right now the version of it is it's just like, it's a little bit sad when you try and push it too hard. It just it doesn't go well, and it feels yeah, it doesn't feel like it's up to standard. The last thing I'll say, and then I'll jump off, or I'll make room for people to talk, is that Elon Musk is a master at showmanship, right? And so with Grok and the Douglas Adams stuff and the sarcasm, you get kind of an interesting, newsworthy AI, but maybe not a better performing one. But I believe in the system prompt for Grok, it says to answer in like a helpful way with that's engaging and maybe has a hint of rebellion. And like there's just some like funny stuff about it where there's there's PR that's built into it. It's designed to kind of like create sensationalist moments. It's designed to kind of draw attention to itself. It's a little bit of an Elon thing. I'm not judging that strategy. I think it's actually quite brilliant, but we also we're playing with a different kind of beast here. This isn't just a tool. It's Grok is its own. It's a project that's designed to highlight X, what's going on in X, and like and what's wrong with AIs and how quote unquote woke they are and everything else.
Yeah, I was going to say it's kind of hard to figure out how to manage it and what you can do with it, because once you're on, there's no way to go back to the previous screen, and I'm not really sure how to work it. I know this sometimes it pulls in posts to support the whatever the point is. And Sarah, I see you got your hand up. I want to make sure if we can get Sarah a mic, please do that. But yeah, it was funny because I thought it would be great for content, and I actually asked it to write a viral hooks for me, and it gave me these weird examples and then it had posts that were underneath it, and one of them he had 6 likes on it, and I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. But you also, I couldn't figure out how do you really change from fun to regular. It seemed like it kind of stayed there. Go ahead, Sarah, please. You probably have more insight.
Not really, but I was going to jump in because Rob put up a very interesting point. I've been playing with Grok for, well, all day. And it's very fascinating what he said in terms of tailoring and specifically curating the message. I talked extensively with Grok about what AI means to humans. And it kept trying to reassure me that it's not going to overtake, or that its developers have instituted safeguards. And I thought that was really odd, but it's been very consistent in doing that. So I'm anxious to see how that works. And also, one thing that we should point out about Minstrel, especially, is its capabilities with Linux and the ability to create your own LLMs. And I think Brian has an extensive kind of post and thread about how he did that. And I think that is going to be an incredible move forward. And it was very strategic today in their releasing that data, because all of the college kids are all going home this week, and all of the hackathons are planned for next week before Christmas. And so now you've got all of these things to play with, and the computer scientists are in the in a playground willing to do that. And I just thought it was very fascinating how fast they're pushing these out. And I'm wondering if that's part of the whole strategery that they have at present. But I did want to point out, Rob is absolutely right, because everything that we tried last night in terms of talking and sussing it out, it was always reassurance. It was always a PR kind of messaging. And it was very fascinating, because I haven't had that with any of the other large language models that I've been playing with. So I just want to point that out. I'll go back down to listening. I love you all. And I'm so proud that each and every one of you are here today on Friday. This is our little campfire. It really is. And I just take so many notes, and we are cross pollinating and being the iron that sharpens iron. And I just appreciate you, because each and every one of you two, obviously, Heather, you know how much I love you, but all of these
please
folks.
don't go. You don't have to jump off.
Oh,
Please,
no,
Sarah,
that's
we
okay.
always
The
welcome.
dogs are barking in the background because
Oh,
I'm getting new raspberry pies from Adafruit. But it was just one of those things that I started thinking about, that, these are the things that we need to talk about. We need to have people, for instance, getting your Raspberry Pi 5s. They're really hard to get. Getting one, learning how to do these things, that's an $80 investment, and it's a supercomputer in your hands. It's, yes, a hard learning curve, but these tools are so powerful. And what we're doing in terms of talking and sussing these things out, it's such a great thing. You can't get this education anywhere else. My kid is a senior. He is a computer scientist, and multiple degrees working on this stuff in the background, and they can't work fast enough. He's basically, his whole world is turned upside down because of all of these tools that have been released. And we're all in this, spot on the timeline of history together. So I just wanted to say thanks to all the speakers, because you share each and every week, and you come prepared with all of this stuff. It's like a giant banquet, and we're all being well fed, and our minds are being enhanced. So I just appreciate you, that you're in my pocket family. So yeah.
Thanks so much, Sarah. I'm being told that Rock was released in the US, and if you are not in the US, but you do have a Premium Plus subscription, that you probably can access it through x.com or twitter.com if you're running X on a VPN. And you'll know it's working. You'll see on your left bar where it goes like home, explore, notifications, messages. Grok is the fifth one there. It's a little box with a slash through it. So if you have Premium Plus and you haven't seen it yet, try VPNing into Twitter, into X, and see if you can access it there.
Alex, what's up? How are you doing?
Hey guys,
Go ahead,
for the
please.
panel.
Welcome.
Thanks, Coop. Nice to be here again. I just wanted to hop on and kind of add to what Sarah was saying, that the releases today, there's been quite a few. I don't know how deep you got into kind of there's an architecture that's rivaling Transformers. I don't know if you guys started talking about this. However, there's a bunch of releases today, and in addition to college kids going home over the weekend and holiday break, and people can play with this and learn, there's also the NeurIPS, NeurIPS, one of the biggest kind of machine learning engineer conferences in the world, probably the biggest. It happens, I think, starts Sunday. I'm going to be there, so if folks are there, welcome to hop by. And I think a lot more will gonna come out. I think a lot more is going to come out, because many people kind of submit their papers. Many people suddenly want to go there and talk about these different techniques. So Mistral released theirs. I know for a fact, I've talked with a few folks. I just landed from San Francisco. I talked with Mistral folks. They're definitely going to be there at the conference and kind of exchange ideas. So whatever we have in this kind of space, in our space on Thursday, many machine learning engineers, many big companies are going to have next week in Europe, and so a lot of these things are coming out very close to that. So definitely there's place for a space a day, I think, because every time we talk about something on Thursday morning and then you guys on Friday afternoon, there's so much that happens between those two spaces that I get to learn, what just happened by just coming up here. So it's great, and shout out Rob and Matt and Linus and all the folks below all. It's a great space you guys have here. I just wanted to chime in with NeurIPS.
Thank you. You're so good with the updates, like the fast updates. Thank you so much, Alex. And I appreciate that. And that's an interesting point that you all bring up about the colleges, the break going on break and how that can accelerate a lot. It's going to be interesting over the holiday break, the last couple weeks here of the year. Go ahead, Sarah.
Well, the hackathons are how we really figure out how these things really work. You have a bunch of kids, and if you've never participated in one, and I'm not a computer scientist, I don't play one on TV. I just, feed them food and make sure Swedish fish and Sour Patch Kids flow. But it is one of those things that I know, right? Allie knows what I'm talking about. Um, it's like an old land party, but my entire living room becomes the cave of smelly feet, because the kids are in goblin mode. But it is one of those things that, Scoble mentions it too, where you have a whole bunch of people cross pollinating. In many ways, it's just like what we're doing here. This is a digital makerspace, right? And we are kind of trying to suss out all of these little nuggets. And hackathons are really important to computer scientists, to game theory, to programmers. It really tests their chops. It's not only identifying problems and thinking of solutions, it's also trying to test whether or not they actually know what they're playing with, right? And Hugging Face too is one of the most valuable tools. And if you don't know Python and all that, there's so many resources that we can learn how to do that. I know I just mentioned Adafruit, but they have a whole newsletter for hack schoolers. So if you have young makers at home, getting them fluid. They don't have to be expert coders. We've got all these large language models that can help, do the heavy lifting, but at least understand what it is and what it is that we're playing with and how it works. And those are the kinds of things that we all should be thinking about. And if you have the opportunity, participate. You don't have to be, all the bells and whistles. You can be a moderator. You can be, just there to help. If you work with the FIRST robotics teams, for instance, every single state has one. And all of these kids now are being kind of mentored and geared towards a future that is immersed in AI, large language models, these augmented, kind of learning experiences, and augmented intelligence, right? So, for those of us that love to write, for instance, or like to paint or draw, we are still very, very needed because those are ways that are universal languages, and it helps a lot of these kids be able to communicate in a multifaceted way. So it's just something to marinate on. Go to your local, universities, your middle schools, your high schools. When they have hackathons, be there because they're fun. And when you see young makers in their element, doing the thing and breaking the stuff and voiding warranties, it's contagious. You can't help it. You want to be a part of it, and you want to stop being nouns and embrace your inner verb and go do stuff. So, yeah, hackathons are really important, and this is very, very deliberate.
I would love to add on that, if you may, Sarah. And I promise not everything you say I will have a comment, but the local stuff is very, very incredibly important. If It's a great way to get into the community as well and start learning. Like organizing doesn't require software engineering skills, but also neither do hackathons, right? So first of all, if you just go to a hackathon, just go and sit there with the chat GPT and like try to figure stuff out. I promise you, every software engineer in a hackathon is also opening ChatGPT and also trying to figure stuff out, just like you. They may have a little bit of an advantage, but like being there, you'll learn. But second of all, one easy way to get into AI, many people listen and they come to spaces, they're like, oh, this is very interesting, but locally I don't know how to switch my profession, whatever. We're actually working on a framework to kind of help everybody organize, self-organize around the world, but you can start one. Like, it's very easy. If you have like 3 friends, just start, announce this, and then people will come. Like, if you organize the Planet AI that just lets you kind of organize local meetups. We've done one in Denver, so if you're in the Colorado and Denver area, definitely feel free to come to ours. But there's a bunch in Boston, there's a bunch in different places, and the organizers don't have to participate themselves. They can just start talking about stuff. And if you don't know what content to give, come to these spaces in Coops, come to Thursday Eye Spaces, and just like tell people what's new that happened for the past month, right? That's plenty of content to keep people updated and engaged over a meetup. So we're working on a framework. I'll talk more about like once we have something, but you honestly don't need a framework. Just go organize this. If you're interested, whatever your background is, if you have a little bit of organizational people skills, that's very needed because people really don't know. No idea about how to use these models, no idea about what's coming out, no idea what multimodal is. Definitely, there's a lot of space of like teaching folks about this.
I also want to, I've been thinking a lot about this lately, trying to do a more like no code, low code focused hackathons, or where it's a lot like prompting and building GPTs and chatbots, and like really accessible to all the visionaries, all the creative people in this space who maybe don't know how to code, or maybe they can just code a tiny bit, and but they can be a little bit dangerous with that. Also been trying to think about how do we do this virtually in a way that has some of the energy of some of these things. Like I'm lucky enough to live in the Bay Area and I can go to some of these real life events, and that's cool. But so many of my favorite people are not here, not even in America, not in North America, like not in my time zone. And like, how can we still build communities and stuff? Super, super interested on that. But let me get the conversation rolling in another direction here, because something else came out in the news this week. I mean, it's been coming for a while, but it really hit hard, which is Animate Anyone. There was a new paper published by the Alibaba Group where basically you've probably seen these videos of you have a picture, you have a dancing wireframe, and on the right now you've got your full moving TikTok style video with like, you know, whatever's going on. And if you check out the paper examples, they've got animated people dancing, their hair's moving, they have the right amount of fingers, their clothes are swaying, they've got, you know, anime characters, same kind of thing, consistent, like everything looks pretty good. It's not maybe 100%. You can tell that it's not AI. There are like little tiny things here and there, but like really, really, really close. Why this is interesting to me is not because I'm a bad dancer and I really want to get on TikTok. I'm actually quite good at dancing. No, why it's interesting is because what we're seeing is the emergence of kind of the next wave of, I'm going to use the word transformative AI, in the sense of transforming things that are like things that haven't existed into things that do exist, or like taking the root performance of one human and being able to apply it at scale in all these ways. And so to me, like, I think obviously we're going to see this in terms of the virtual influencers and other things like that in the short term. But in the long term, the implications of this tech are far more interesting. So let me give you a couple examples. Right now, we have stunt people in Hollywood who are paid because they look really similar to Chris Hemsworth or some other actor, and they do the stunts for them. And then when you see it in the movies, they cut it really carefully. So when they do the roundhouse kick, it's the stunt person wearing the same outfit. And then, you know, when they show Black Widow's face, it's Scarlett Johansson, right? Like actually doing the reaction shot. And we're going to get to the point where it doesn't even have to necessarily be so carefully done, where they can do the performance, maybe even do it with a green screen, and then bring it into the cinema or something like that. So I think we're going to see a transformation in terms of visual effects, in terms of Hollywood, what's possible. We're also going to see people being able to like take things that happen out there in the wild. So again, Black Widow throws a roundhouse kick, and then I run an analysis of that and give it Rob standing there, and now Rob throws a roundhouse kick, right? And what are all the different things that can happen when we can do media like that, from deep fakes and adult content, and you know, stuff that is maybe edgy to talk about on this space, although I'm willing to go there, you know, to really nice stuff, to kids content, to stuff we see on YouTube where it's just like, you know, Teletubby style animations and whatever. Now imagine that I can take Blippy and I can make like a dinosaur do what Blippy is doing, and just like all of the combinations and permutations of taking human movement, reskinning it with images, and and like to me, this is like just a whole nother level of stuff that we're opening up. It was cool with Runway version 1, where you could kind of like combine your human performance with a Midjourney image or something, but this is taking it way beyond this. So I wanted to bring that to the table, kind of open it up. Where do you guys think that we're headed with Animate Anyone and some of these other dance things that like where we're seeing
AP
dancing? Yeah.
AP had a good video up with Shrek, right?
Oh
Where
yeah.
you, yeah.
Yeah. I
Go
made the
ahead.
Shrek dancing with Magic Animate. Yeah, so I definitely think they're really interesting. Magic Animate has a little bit of a different approach from Animate Anyone because Magic Animate uses the dense pose. So it was really interesting to see because like when the code dropped, everyone was like, "Oh yeah, super cool." They thought it was Animate Anyone, but then I guess there's some sort of like limitations using dense pose, but it was really cool because then people started making like scripts, and then eventually they made like Hugging Face spaces for you to be able to make like the driving motion with the dense pose. So yeah, I think that's really cool, and I'm really excited for Animate Anyone though, just because I think that the pose estimation will be a more superior way of like driving the animation. Magic Animate, I always get these like words confused. Magic Animate is definitely like really exciting though, and yeah, I think this is only going to get more coherent. Right now, there's like it's not that good with like faces and like hands and things like that, but like with face IP adapters, like I'm pretty sure they're going to get the faces really good. Like I think it was like a modified version with Magic Animate with the face IP adapter, and like the face just comes out perfectly. So yeah, people are definitely hacking on this stuff, and yeah, like they always say, it's only going to get better from here. As cliche as that is, it's true, right? But yeah, it's crazy. It's really crazy.
I mean, this is.
I'll
Oh,
jump
go
in
ahead.
here and just say, it's also exciting to think about what it would have taken to do this, like even a year or so ago. Like, a lot of people used to make those videos where Meta had a couple models that would go. Heck, I even remember a phygital session we had in the early days of last summer in one of these spaces, Heather spaces. They had like a put in like a 2D image of somebody, and it would sort of give you a full 360 3D model, right? And then you'd export that model, then you'd rig that in something else, drop in a mocap file, and do this whole thing, right? And now you just skip a bunch of those steps. What's also interesting is, obviously ByteDance was involved in this research, and so like, I just tagged the post, and like Sunny Madra was like, I was asking folks, how quickly do we think this will actually become a filter in TikTok? Because people are like, this is going to kill TikTokers, and I'm like, no, no, no. This is going to be a filter in TikTok. The last thing it's going to do is kill TikTokers. It'll just spawn a whole new category of memes, right? This exact same thing happened when people were like deliberating whether they should download the freaking, AI avatar generators, all of which were basically Dream Booth and a wrapper. Like, oh, I can't download this. Should I download it? Meanwhile, like TikTok shipped like a one-shot anime filter and spawned like a whole category of memes. And so Sunny made a prediction 4 weeks tops, and I tagged in the head of community for Effect House, which is the sort of the AR platform underpinning TikTok. And Greg Feingold goes, check out our developer conference next week, winky emoji. So I guess next week we might see something like this happening. And that's when it gets really exciting to me, where like, AP is obviously a talented person, and he can like, duct tape all these things together to achieve a result, even though he's using a slightly different, kind of approach to do this. When the everyday person gets access to this and you have that sort of creation consumption feedback loop unlocked, gosh, I love the chaos that's going to ensue from that. I'm super, super excited.
I
Yeah,
mean, this is face swap like on steroids, right? Like, think of all the fun that we had with even basic stuff, and now it's like body movement swap. Go ahead, AP.
no, yeah, definitely. Like, I think it's like going to be really exciting because like once you put it in the hands of like the consumers, then you have no idea how they're going to play with it and like what memes are going to spawn from this. Like, it's going to be, I think it's going to be pretty dope. Like I think the best example of that was like the illusion diffusion or the controlism when that came out. I had no idea people were going to put like people's heads in there, like their profile pictures, and then they would use that to drive the illusion. Like, yeah, it's just like once you put it into the hands of the people, like they're just gonna make some crazy stuff, and it's gonna be fun. I hope they put it into TikTok.
It's like open source at scale, right? It's like that's the beauty of close open source versus closed source too, in a way. It's just the surface area of people interacting with us is so much broader than like select groups of people, say in like, in sort of a corporate setup. And yeah, like, gosh, I keep going back to the anime one because one of the trends that started off was collecting a rare anime. So y'all probably remember this. People were like holding up a watch to their eye just to get like the craziest generation possible. And I just like, I would have never thought of doing something like that. And then yeah, it's like that's where it's like you can see like creativity play out in this like super accelerated timeline. And yeah, cool stuff will happen for sure.
Well, I'll give you one other use case for this, and this is a little dystopian and a little sad. But I was thinking about how I could take a picture from when I was like skinnier, and then I could reanimate myself as my like younger, prettier self using this technology. And I mean, I say this in jest, but I really do think that there is this interesting world that we're approaching where if you can inhabit anybody, but you also sort of want to stay yourself, now you could potentially take a photoshopped picture of yourself or a younger, skinnier, fitter picture of yourself and run that as your own filter. And we are going to get into a world where people love that authenticity, and then you realize that it's like, oh, that's just not that person being airbrushed like in real time and the few wrinkles being seamed out like you get on Zoom right now. Like this could be a full thing. And then what are the societal implications of being able to kind of like digitally present as a different version of yourself?
I
And
want to be forever young, forever.
right?
Well, to jump in, Kiss had their final concert, but now everything is going to be AI from here on out. So they have captured the lightning in the bottle of their younger selves. So I think Yahoo reported that a couple days ago. And it's a very fascinating story because if you know who Gene Simmons is, he really is got his finger on the pulse of the zeitgeist. And they have been working on this for quite some time, and they've trained their own LLMs not only on their voice, their structure, their sound, and everything else. And so this last concert was basically an introduction to their forever selves. And so you're not far off, Rob. A lot of bands are thinking about that. They're thinking about how much their portfolios are actually worth. When you have someone like Shaq who owns a ton of music or, a huge bulk of these things, it's not too far fetched to think things like, let's say, Spotify, who has a truckload of data already scraped, and the ability to tailor. And you can have somebody sing a song in one person's voice with another person's body. We're coming into an age where we truly are going to determine what we see, and that's kind of a scary thought when you think about it, because we all share, you know, similar lore, our myths, our legends, the things that hold us together as a society. Well, if we don't have common stories, it's not going to be too far in the future where I could be looking at my Netflix and Rob, you could be looking at your Netflix, and we don't have anything in common. We don't even have the same movies because those movies are going to be generated and tailored to our tastes in real time. It's the same with music. It's this hyper individualism and this disconnectedness because, we can tailor anything we consume in media format. And the fight of the ages is going to be finding commonality with our fellow man and having those concert experiences where we all are sitting at the banquet together. And it's a very fascinating thing, but I will try to find the article about Kiss because I'll tell you what, it's great. It's such a cool
Right.
opportunity. Yeah.
And I think what's interesting about the phenomenon of celebrities, and this gives me some hope for humanity, is that we like celebrities because it allows us all to have kind of a shared relationship with a friend, like a common person that even though none of us actually probably know that celebrity, we can all go, oh, Taylor Swift, like, did you hear about this and the football game and the guy and the Eras tour and all that stuff. And we can all have that shared experience of how we react to Taylor and her music and her performances. And then with Taylor, that's an interesting one to bring up because we have with her, we have the Eras tour, right? We have the movie version of Taylor, and people going to the movies and partying and standing up and treating it like it's a real concert, even though it's pre-recorded. And so I think if we pull on that string a little bit and we look at what AI is doing and we look at the capturing of Kiss and some of these other things, you can see that how the convergence of this stuff might actually bring us closer together, where now we can all go to a Taylor Swift concert, even if we can't afford it, even if we can't sit in the front row. We can kind of have this experience, and maybe that's cool. Maybe that is a way that we come together. But there's also the opposite, right? I think that this society is going to devolve a little bit in terms of relationships, feelings about potential romantic partners, and sex and looks and expectations. And just as we saw in sort of the Instagram era, where everyone on Instagram is sort of like sharing this idealized version of themselves and the perfect photo and that staged avocado toast picture that they, are like, oh, look what they're having for breakfast and look how attractive they are and how fit they are. And they're on vacation in these locales. And then I always love the picture behind the picture where it shows the person is in like a dumpy, place, but they just happen to be standing on the beach next to a wooden hut. And then like you look around and it's tourists everywhere and it's trash and it's other things. And so the reality versus expectations there's a gulf. Well, now when anyone can get a hot waifu and get her dancing and talk to her and I think that there are a lot of vulnerable, lonely people out there who are going to be sucked into this content, especially men who and it's not just men, but I've seen a lot of men gravitate towards sort of the easy dopamine that satisfies a lot of the urges or whatever, and so like, oh, this is pretty and it's flashy and it moves fast and it's hot and I'm going to go there. And then like what we've seen with younger people and older people too at this point is they go out and they meet a real woman or a real partner of potential partner, and that's not what they saw online and on Instagram, and it's unrealistic to expect that even from another human being. And then we have people who aren't succeeding in life because they aren't prepared for what real life is like, and so they go back to the internet and they go back to this idealized fantasy. So I'm not like complaining about this. I think this is just kind of one of these issues that society has to work through and things we have to be aware of and stuff. And I for one am actually excited by the idea of a certain kind of AI companion that allows us to have really interesting, amazing, the kinds of experiences that we see in sci-fi and that we've dreamed about as kids. And I think that some of those things, like I want to have my data, like the Star Trek android or my Jack, whatever, Tony Stark's, buddy. I want to have like relationships with computers. Like maybe I'm weird, but I don't necessarily want to have them at the cost of my relationships with humans. And I think that a lot of people aren't going to have the foresight to realize what's happening to them, especially with I'm looking at a dancing cat girl waifu in the comments on this space right now, and it's like, how do you compete with that in real life? Like, you don't have a tail, you don't have ears, you don't have eyes that are like 3 times the size of human eyes. Like, how does I mean, obviously she's a cartoon, but like I think there's versions of this that are coming for society and for culture, and I don't think that we're going to have the coping skills to deal with it for like a decade, and there's going to be some collateral damage as society figures out what to do with all this new media.
Well, I was going to ask, speaking about like having your own a personal AI, and there's a lot of different, startups that are, this type of concept. For the people that are in this room, like, why do you have any thing to add to say, like, why should they care about this, and why should they be interested in learning about a personal AI for their own, for the information that they want to keep or to have as a companion to ask questions, like your own personal GPT. Anybody have any thoughts about that?
Heather, I can weigh in on this actually. And Rob, to your point, there's just so much socially, I think, as well. I wanted to say this earlier, but I didn't have a quick chance. There's so much socially that's happening that I think is going to be a reflection of how this technology is just changing the way we interact, the way that we engage, the way that we form communities, and all of these things become more and more hyper personalized, and yet at the same time more and more disconnected from reality. So it's a really interesting like dichotomy. You look at like, how um and yes, I'm going to name drop this, but like how the Kardashians came on the scene, a decade or two ago, and it just totally transformed the way that, beauty standards are set on social media. Like, think of this now at such a larger scale with AI kind of shoving its way in and redefining what that perception is for so many people. And there's going to be so many people who are none the wiser as well. They like see this stuff and they don't have the perception to differentiate it from reality. And that's really scary. So I think it's worth considering. It's definitely something that I keep at the front of my mind in everything that I do that's AI driven, and everything that I tell my clients and people that I work with is that, this is extremely powerful, extraordinary technology, but it comes with a whole load of baggage that we as a society, as responsible users of this technology, need to be aware of. So things are changing on that front. But just to pivot a little bit, I'll talk about the role of like custom personal assistants, AI agents, if you will. For me, and one of the things that I've been working on over the last week is building a personal AI for myself that's trained on everything about my professional life, my content, my voice, my style, my achievements, my past history and clients that I've worked with. And I've been like really trying to fine tune it. And I'm so impressed with it right now because it's like I can ask it any question about me. And I use it for things like when I'm like communicating with like clients or like pitching, for example, because I'll do contract based work, and so I'm putting together like a pitch, and I want it to be really attuned with, what my background is, but make sure that I'm hitting all of the pain points for this prospective client. So I can go through now, and I have a lot of documentation that I trained this GPT on, all about myself, and it can pull it with like really good accuracy. It's not perfect by any means, and I do fact check things. Um, but I found it to be amazing, especially because I genuinely forget some of the things that I've done. Like I have like periods of time that I swear I just like black out and don't remember how stressful that 6 week project was. I never want to think about it again. But by the way, it actually produced some really cool stuff. So those are the types of things that I want to make sure that I can like easily recount and put into uh, you know, pitches or positioning or whatever it is, messaging for my clients and stakeholders. And it's been great. Like I said, I've been using it for like custom outreach, pitch decks, bios, timelines for myself, relevant context about things that I've worked on, and I've been iterating on it for over a week now. Trained it on like a mixture of kind of structured data and chronological narratives that I put into a combination of text files and like tabular files like a CSV or an Excel. And I find that like text files are best for narrative and like kind of more contextual data, and then the structured data files are best for structured data. Like, again, it has limitations. It's not ideal for like the longer form type of stuff, but it is really good for things like nailing timelines and adding tags to stuff. So that's pretty much how I trained it. I did it all I put all the like the training data, training knowledge into the where you can like upload your files if you're creating a new GPT in ChatGPT. And then I put all the like training knowledge into that thing where you upload it, and then I used the like actual chat where you can converse back and forth with it to kind of provide the behavioral instructions, and really like fine tune it from there. So that kind of combination of like hard knowledge goes in the upload in the knowledge base, and then behaviors, how I want to interact with it, go in the chat is great. So I'm still running some tests on it. But hopefully I want to try to create something similar that other people can utilize for themselves and kind of have like a templated approach to replicating this. So
This is
that's what
awesome,
I've been up
Taylor.
to.
Can I ask,
Yeah, I love this.
for those of us who are thinking about doing this, can you tell us a little, like, what kinds of information should we be saving off into a folder, or like Like, did you pull this from what, your LinkedIn, your resume? Like, where did you get all this stuff from?
Everything. Yeah. So I actually had to go through like several iterations of just structuring the data because there was so much of it. Like I pulled some of my top tweets, my email campaign content, newsletter stuff. I pulled my like link all my LinkedIn stuff, and I just like I have random bylines on the internet, and so I just everything that I could think of that was valuable, and kind of gave like a broad context to what I do, but while still maintaining like the chronological order and structure of it all. So I took all of that. I started off with just like a text file, dumped everything in there, and then ran it through GPT several times, and I've like several times over a period of a week. So like in each of those several times there were dozens of iterations of like fixing it, starting a new chat, restructuring it, going through. I have about 5 different files uploaded right now, that I'm pulling everything from, and I'm trying to keep the context window short and efficient. But yeah, it started with just pulling everything, and then further structuring that data down into timelines. What common words and descriptors best like describe what I've done in this period of time versus this period of time. So really trying to look at it like analytically so that it makes the most sense for the the AI to understand. And again, like it's still kind of a moving target, but I've done some stuff like the needle in a haystack, and like tried to pull really, really specific incidences. Like what was this campaign that I worked on in this year, and what was my specialty that I contributed to the project? And it's done a pretty good job of describing that back to me. So it is nice. It's like a second brain.
Right, and then you're using this to like win new clients or to
Mm-hmm.
um, like sell yourself and promote yourself and things like
Correct.
that.
Yes, correct. Yeah, I'm in my promo era phase, or at least I'm starting it over these next few months while I wind down on projects a little bit. I'm like, how do I pitch myself to speak? How do I pitch myself to, this contract that, 2 years ago I thought would have been totally out of the realm of what I'm capable of, but I know that I can do it. So, it's a combination of both. I've also used it like with clients. This sounds bad, but like I was helping a brand do some like UX UI design, and putting together some mobile best practices, and so I knew that I had written them down, I don't know, ages ago, for a different client. So I asked the GPT to remind me which project I used. I did all the projects that I did UX UI design on. And then from there, I was able to like locate it on my hard drive, what exactly I was looking for. And it was like a whole guide I put together. So I'm kind of using it as like a dam, like a digital asset manager, but it's like almost cloud based, or at least that's what I hope that it can kind of grow into.
Taylor, you brought up a really good point. Well, many good points. You always do. One of the other use cases I've seen people do, and the reason why they're creating their own personal LLMs in general, is to aggregate and notarize their own information. And what I mean by that is, again, Brian was talking about it on one of the spaces with Scoble, about how much, let's say, microfiche, for instance, at libraries, they're just tossing that out, right? Which is just gut wrenching because a lot of digital media is being lost to history right now, and of fast speed. And so capturing people's voices, for instance. So when you're at the dinner table and you're listening to grandma tell story, or, tell the family how she made her secret recipe, having a recording of that and having your LLMs being, kind of trained on those kinds of things, it gives you an opportunity to talk to dead relatives, as they say. But more than that, it's also saying, I'm safeguarding myself. It's no different than when you think of, let's say, J-Lo. J-Lo back in the day, she insured her tail end because it was that great, right? it's the same kind of thing with the singer, right? Julie Andrews, for instance, was terrified. Adele, same. When they had to have surgery on their nodes in their neck, and they didn't know if they would be able to sing or continue on with the career that they had. If they had these tools in place, they could ensure certain things. If you want, what is it, Attenborough reading your story, what happens after he's left his mortal coil? Will we be able to have our stories read by this amazing voice? And, those are the kinds of things that you can wrap your noodle around. It's not just the use cases in your business. Me as an author, I have been able to create not just that second brain. It's I can download all of my writing style. It can emulate that, and it can also play devil's advocate in fiction writing, because now my characters can fight each other via my own head. You know what I mean? And then to have that kind of cross pollination with fiction, for instance, it's fun. It's a novelty, but it's also very powerful in terms of ideation. It's also really cool too, because once you know how to do that, you can train your clients, and your clients can have a closed system with, when they're, let's say, generating movies or media or whatever. It's always through the prism of their core mission or their core brand. They can't be swayed by a board, or they can't be swayed by a new hire that maybe wants to take, the company in a radical direction. I heard someone say recently, the Bud Light incident, for instance. It's like, wow, I never really thought that that would even enter into the lexicon, but it did, because they said, hey, if we had a program in house that had our core ethos, we would not have run certain ads or had done certain things or made certain faux pas, because you're stripping that emotion of a human out of the churn, I suppose. But it is kind of interesting when you think about it, and they are very powerful, and we have no idea how it's all going to suss out and play out, because the other thing too, I think, was meta. When you die, they own you. If you don't give your family members the login details, um, they can never access your account. So how your entity is treated after you've escaped your mortal coil could be in the hands of these other folks. And if you've trained your own data and you've trained your own LLM, you can preserve those intellectual properties and ideas for perpetuity. So it's just something to think about, because I know for me personally, it was not on my radar. And then when it was, I was like, wow. And then you get caught up and you start going down rabbit holes and such. But Taylor, you're doing the right thing.
Does anyone want to put some prompt injection attacks into their digital clone, just so that if somebody gets a hold of it and tries to do some nefarious stuff, it can like reassert itself? But really, this just in, I have a Grok update, everybody, live Grok update. I have tried to ask Grok about Taylor Peterson and when people say nice things about her, and it has completely failed. That's right. It could not find good things that people were saying on X about at Space Case Tay.
It's just all my haters. What can I say?
So what I was hoping was, because Taylor was talking about how she can use this like pitch to sell herself, to promote herself for speaker engagements, and I was thinking, I wonder if what all the like unknown testimonials are that are like floating around, where someone was like, Taylor's so great that she forgot to bookmark or copy, and I was like, this would be an awesome use case for Grok to build a library of social proof for any of us, for things that people said in public that were nice about us. And what it came back with was things that Taylor said that were nice about other things, and it tried to imply that like she was the amazing creator of Midjourney 5.2 because she posted
I'll
about
take it.
Midjourney.
I'll take it. We're good.
So sorry, sorry, the tech isn't quite there yet with Grok, but I love this idea, and I just wanted to pull on that thread for a little bit, because I think that everybody on this call, we all need to either promote ourselves, whether it's as creators or as employees in a business who might get a raise or a promotion or get some kind of appreciation for the work that we do, whether it's for the business that we want to grow. um, in having some kind of piece, centralized, AI that knows things about this business, that knows what it does, where the value is, what it provides, what are all the different ways that it's helped people. Like, I'm going to go after this call and get all my testimonials and every review that anyone's ever posted on any of my courses or my community, and like put them in a GPT and use that to generate new landing page content or new, email like campaigns, maybe where we talk about what people are actually saying about the results they're getting from my products. And I think that this is the kind of practical use case where, yes, it's fun to generate TikTok videos of myself dancing, and yes, it's cool to like ask Rock to roast me, but it's makes me money if I can do stuff like what Taylor's talking about. And so I love that she brought that up, and I just want to like kind of encourage people to be thinking in these ways about like, what is the actual data that I have that can support my business goals and my personal goals. And there are these kind of new creative ways to use AI that most people aren't thinking of. And we need to stop and take note when we hear Taylor like talking about this, because it's like, whoa, I want to get a paid speaking gig. How am I going to do that? Well, maybe if I drop all my testimonials and content into an AI and ask it, it will have some kind of good idea on how I should pitch myself, and and that will get me the momentum that I need to then go and attain that goal.
I think I want to just to you brought up a really good tactical use case for all this stuff, especially given the limitations of the tech, right? Like how much data can you upload into GPT? Maybe you're doing your own RAG stuff, maybe you're doing your own fine tuning. But going back to Sarah's point, it's like I can't stop thinking about that notion of like the point you mentioned about Facebook kind of owns you, right? Especially like after a loved one passes away or something like that, we've got these like facets of our digital twin, kind of scattered across these various applications. And it'd be kind of interesting. I mean, Twitter is such an interesting one, or X, I should say. Like, what were your like fleeting thoughts over time, right? Like, that's kind of cool in itself. And then, of course, like folks like Matt, they've got this like huge library of YouTube videos where they're talking, right? And sharing their, long form thoughts on a bunch of different stuff. But your Google Photos account, right? Your freaking Instagram account, like your email, all this stuff, like all this data is sitting siloed. And I wonder, when are we going to reach that point where we can, like, where the average person can sort of like Voltron or Transformers or T1000 style pull all those facets together and not have to go through the stuff of, I don't know, doing some like massive takeout. And maybe that'll be the way it starts, right? You do your export from a bunch of different places, plug it into some product that hopefully doesn't scrape your, frickin' digital twin in perpetuity and does some nefarious stuff with it. But that's just super exciting. Sarah, yeah, do you wanna add something here?
Well, yeah. If you guys haven't been following Mike Mondo, he just gave his AI personhood. So what he did is he co-authored a book, and his, I think it was character AI is what he was using, but his character AI was Sherlock Holmes. And so he wrote this book. And on the surface, most people are looking at his post and his streams. They're not fully embracing or understanding the fact that he had a lawyer actually create this entity, his AI twin, his AI cohort has an actual personhood and actually is receiving, not only receiving royalties from the book sales, but also has full dominion over the trust in terms of how it can reallocate the funds that it's been paid to other people, other charities, other whatever it wants. And so you have this ability when you think about, let's say, an estate plan, right? And you think about all of the stuff that you're going to give to your kids or yada, yada. You could actually have your digital twin have the legal authority to continue your estate in perpetuity without you being there. And that is now a case that's a now precedent. And so when we're playing with all of these things, including, let's say, your seeds, for instance, or any of the other who's its and what's its that you're feeding into these systems, now because we also have in connection. If you think about it, we have the digital notary of a blockchain multi times over. So let's say you use Arweave, for instance, create the smart contract and start minting these little snippets of your digital self, right? Arweave's guaranteed for 200 years. So they've already set up the mechanism to make sure that those things outlive you, right? And when you're thinking about that, just like what you say, Bilal, um, all of these little snippets, like I was going through my phone, whenever you get a new phone, you're like terrified about your messages. My dad died in 2020 on Christmas Day, and I have his last message, and my fear is losing that message because it's trapped in AT&T data, and I can't have it. It's not allowing me to have it, but I know that they do have it, and that just drives me bonkers, right? And so trying to outwit and outsmart and circumnavigate the existent silos to get those snippets back so that you can listen to dad again. Those are the kinds of things that you don't really think about, but they're important. And once you figure them out, making sure your clients figure it out too is really, really important. Your collectors, your clients that you're consulting, heck, even the people that buy your book, you want to make sure that they have your book forever. It's just one of those things that yeah, you get to think about. But yep.
Yeah, this idea of an AI with, as you were saying, personhood, with a bank account, with a trust, with the decision making ability. What's interesting about it, and why I think we're not there yet for the general public, is that humans are always on, and we perceive a multitude of things as a result of being alive. And also, many of these things happen as part of like sustaining our survival. So like as a human, I need to go to the grocery store and I need to move around, and I desire entertainment and connection with other people and to have conversations. And so I'm getting all of this data, and then I'm always processing it, and I'm always sort of taking action. Today's AIs can only do that if they're set on an infinite loop of just kind of constantly looping back through some kind of process. And usually developers will talk about the OODA loop, which is observe, orient, decide, act. And then once you've taken action, you observe what happened and reorient, decide the next thing, and act. And so I could see a world where we have always on AIs that have these streams of, let's call it perception, of what is the information that's coming into them, that are able to constantly make decisions. But what's interesting is that when like AIs always make decisions right now, which is to say, when you ask an AI, hey, what should I do? It never says, I'm not sure yet. Maybe we should wait around. Like it will always go, oh, well, the three things that you should do in this situation are one, da 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 da, two, act ethically, three, da 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 da. And so they're, because they're biased to be helpful and also harmless and honest, but helpful, right? That the point of this is of being a tool is to do a thing, and so they always want to do it. And I think one of the things that's really interesting about humans versus AI, well, it's actually two things combined. But one of them is the decision not to act, to wait and see, to sort of not do things, and that's something AI is really bad at. And when you try and get it to be good at that, it tends to not act in the wrong times. Like you try and get it to do something, and it's like, no, I don't want to do it. And we saw this in the last 2 weeks with like ChatGPT being lazy, or not wanting to write the whole code and being like, well, I've given you a code snippet, you write the whole code, right? That was them trying to align the model to be able to show restraint when it didn't know what to do, and it started showing restraint when you did tell it what to do. So there's the AI versus human thing of not acting. The other thing is to forget. The human brain is prioritizes certain memories and has lots of sophisticated systems for doing this that I don't fully understand. But like one of them is when you do something repeatedly, those neural pathways light up more often, they get stronger, they become more connected. And so if I smell a scent when I'm around a person and I fall in love with that person, the memory of the scent and the memory of love become connected, right? And now if I smell that on somebody else, I think back to my ex-girlfriend from college or something like that, right? That's human memory and how it reinforces certain things, but then everything else, things that are not that scent and not that love, can kind of fade to the background if they haven't been activated soon. And so what's fascinating to me about large language models in particular is like they're trained on these big foundational data sets. Here's all the knowledge you need to know. Here's all of the things that you can learn about the human condition. And they treat them all equally, they treat them all equally enough in the sense of, like, obviously if there's patterns that are deeper and more ingrained in that data, those patterns are more prominent in the results that the predictive engine behind the AI produces. But they treat them all equally in the sense that the AI can never decide to forget. It doesn't get to decide this memory is more valuable or important than this one. And in a way, it's like a human carrying all of their past, all of their trauma, all of their bad ideas, and prioritizing them the same, potentially the same as all of their good ideas. And I'm like sort of oversimplifying things, but this is one of the, I like when we talk about AGI and the future of AI and some of these really big concepts, I think a lot about this kind of stuff of like what it is to be on, what it is to have a perception of the world and where that information comes from, and what it is to remember, to forget, and to decide what's important. And that it's not like these are not even it's not an even world that a human exists in. You definitely have a certain bias towards certain information, towards certain activities, towards certain things, and the AIs seem to not have that in the same way based on the architectures they have currently. And that to me, it might be a little thing like that prevents AIs from really sort of attaining the future that we hope they can attain with us.
John, you came on. Thank you for taking the mic. And B, we definitely got to get you on. But B, actually, you've been waiting for quite a while, so I wanted to let you speak. And then John, go ahead, please.
Oh, hey guys, is that John as in John Knack, J Knack?
Yes, Jay Nat.
Oh, hey everybody,
Welcome.
yeah. Hey, thank
Thank
you.
you.
I was just texting on the side with Bilal. Yeah, just a couple minutes ago, Bilal was talking about Voltron as sort of a metaphor for things coming together. And as it happens, I've just been creating fun artwork for my gym, and one of the guys who goes there is a designer and who does a lot of custom merchandise. Anyway, so he was hitting me up today just for advice, and I had to tell him, like, yeah, well, if you want X, you gotta, try Firefly. We can do that for you. But if you want Y, probably try Midjourney. And if you want Z, go over to DALL-E. And I couldn't really point him to any, single solution where he could upload his images, create a custom model, get coherent type, do in painting, on down the line. And so it's okay. I mean, I think we all get spoiled really fast at just how quickly things evolve. But it was kind of a reality check for me that, yeah, there's these amazing shards. I kind of likened it to the T1000 who gets frozen and shattered, and then you see all the pieces trying to glom together. And so it's a little bit like that, I think. Certainly at Adobe, we're trying to, knit together more pieces, but it is still, very much work in progress. And I guess that's the price of innovation, right? It's like, if you want to walk fast, walk alone. If you want to walk far, walk together. And so both are good. We're definitely in sort of walk fast mode, but I think in parallel, people will figure out how to walk far, and they will start Voltroning the pieces together. So that was my 2 cents.
Can I follow up with a quick question here? Is especially
Sure.
earlier we were talking about multimodality, John. I'm kind of curious from a creation standpoint. Obviously y'all have shown some cool stuff. With that ControlNet 3D style demo. But there's so much other stuff here, right? Like voice as an input, like straight up video. I'm kind of curious, what's your take on what we'll see around multimodality and creation in 2024?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So how long you guys got here? We might be here a minute. No, and
Heather,
honestly,
please.
well, I want to hear your thoughts too. I mean, I'll tell you, so for folks who haven't seen it, this was now some months ago. We haven't shipped it yet, but showing some experimentation with 3D to image. So basically, placing primitives and getting a result. which frankly is super similar to what folks are doing in Korea and now all these other tools. I have, as this space is open, I have a Martin Nebelong's recent tweet open and that I want to send to some people, just showing all this stuff. Anyway, yeah, part of the puzzle I think is fitting together like, how do you take an image, brushstrokes, primitives like 2D, 3D shapes, let people unite those, in some meaningful way on a canvas and interpret those and then get something out the other end, whether it's a still, single frame or whether it's a sequence as a video. I think that's really interesting. Some of the questions I have are like, is it better to just say like, oh, I want, a cute golden doodle, or to try to sketch the golden doodle and then have the app take that into account? Naively, it's like, well, sketching is great and you see a good demo and it makes a lot of sense. I don't know if it always makes sense. I have a sense that there's kind of an uncanny valley here where on the one end, giving really coarse prompts, like literally X marks the dog. And then, okay, dog goes over there, great. And then the system takes it from there. Or on the other end, more like control net image to image stuff where it's like, okay, it's explicitly this image. And now I want you to just transform that so it's very recognizably that image. I feel like, those two poles are really promising. I think in the middle, it's probably messier. It's like, well, how much should I try to take your crappy sketch and try to make a dog out of that? Like, or if you do it, you draw a dog and then you say a Corvette, like, what am I supposed to do with that? I also think the more instructional based editing is going to be super interesting, and exactly how that fits together with these other methods is kind of TBD. So if people haven't seen it, Meta Research put out a thing called Emu Edit a week or two ago. Basically, not only creating something with prompts, but being able to mutate, right? So you could say a dog and then put a hat on the dog and now make the dog water ski and now like make that a video. Adobe and others have been researching that space for a while. But like how exactly, in the context of a document, do you want to mix and match these things, right? Like, do you want to, bring in a photo, sketch on top of it, give it a prompt, get a result, and then, mutate that with additional prompts? Well, probably that's pretty cool. But at some point, what you're getting out the other end no longer bears any resemblance to the input. And so there's a lot of, I don't know, just kind of interesting UX questions. To me, it's analogous to like vector versus raster, right? I mean, there's a reason that after, 40 years, we still have both and they're both vital. And it's not that one is better than the other. They're just different ways to represent data. And so that's the stuff which, being a huge nerd, I lie in bed thinking about. And yeah, I think a lot of people will keep prototyping. Again, right now, it's kind of the walk fast, walk alone mode of people doing this stuff in parallel. But I would love to see how does that come together in a composition world with, text to 3D or image to 3D or, image to 3D back to image. It's a pretty high dimensional space, but it's super exciting.
Love it, John. Thank you so much, man. Yeah, it's like all these primitives can be chained together in interesting ways, and we'll see a lot more. I got thoughts on this, but I'll pause right now. Heather, I know you want B to go next. B, you wanna
Oh
jump on
yeah,
here?
B. Yes, B. I'm sorry. I have you sitting there.
Hey, no problem.
Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. We can hear you.
Okay, great. First of all, such a great turnout, such a great group of people. And I've been wanting to jump in several times because the topic keeps kind of flowing with what's happening in my world as well. I'll just, top of mind, I'll go back to GPT in a second, but because we got John, and I think it's just quite interesting that he spoke before me, and I'm really glad that he did because I spent almost at least 100 hours on Adobe Aero for my final project for school. And that's been quite the experience. And I'd love to know more about that team and when that's going to come out of beta with some of the glitches. But I'm really proud of the project that I did, and I posted it. And actually, I was, to my surprise, CircuitStream, they haven't posted anything a long time in Twitter, but they posted my a really kind of odd GIF of it. It's quite fun. I didn't go into XR design and development or prototyping to kind of make this kind of stuff, but like a desktop companion of a little ghost that has a bad attitude that is super cute. But I'm into publishing, and I want to take the print book to the next level with augmented reality and merchandise and authors, of course, right? Because you got to extend that dollar with what you're making. So I guess that was my question. Do you know? I know that you're probably in another division, John, with Adobe, but do you know anything about Adobe Aero that's going on or what's happening with that? Because I think it's been in beta for what, almost 4 years now.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny. I was actually just chatting with the PM yesterday at work. Yeah, let's follow up offline. I'd love to know kind of what you're experiencing. I mean, I guess I'll just speak candidly, and this is completely for me, not for the Aero team. I mean, I know Balavel because we worked together at Google when ARKit, ARCore, a lot of consumer AR was really hitting and like having this moment in 2017. But gosh, 2017, it's like, oh, that's like last year. It's like, no, dude, that was like 6 years ago. And to me, it's really interesting that, like, frankly, I just never see much widespread use of like world-facing AR. Like the only place I feel like AR has found purchase, and it is huge but very narrow, is selfie filters in Snapchat and maybe Instagram. And in those contexts, hundreds of millions of people are using it every day. Maybe in TikTok too. Balavel and others know more about that than I do. But with stuff like Aero, I don't know. For whatever reasons, we just haven't seen people like creating a virtual shoe store where you're like walking around and like, placing the Nike and so forth. I think some of that maybe will change with, just like Luma and these other great tools for, doing photogrammetry very quickly, very high quality. But at the same time, I just think we're always competing with the modality of like, I don't know, just showing a photo or showing a series of photos, I mean, I also worked on like using Unreal Engine to stream crazy, huge models from the cloud down to your phone, down to Google search. And it's like, people cared at Google because it was a way to like soak up Stadia capacity, which obviously wasn't going to get used for gaming. But it wasn't something that consumers cared about, right? It's at some point it's like, I'd just rather see like a nice photo of that Volvo. Or if I'm going to do something, I'd rather have like a 10 megabyte model that loads instantly rather than some grandiose thing. So I don't know. I would love to. I do think world-facing AR will happen. I think everybody feels it'll certainly happen when glasses look like glasses. Whenever that is, who knows? A lot of people have lost a lot of money betting wrong on that one so far. But yeah, I don't know. I think Aero remains stuck in beta just because so does consumer world-facing AR.
Thanks for answering my question. And because there's a variety of, text to 3D, I utilize that to make some of my assets and objects and models. So no, thank you very much for answering that question. And I believe it's like a real low drag, and because I was excited about AR years ago, but also I didn't see the value in it and how people were engaging with it. But I do know that retail, and even if it's online, like web AR or XR, is people are wanting like a jewelry try-ons, right? And I guess I'm just looking at all the different ways that people are utilizing AR right now, but I know that it's coming. I feel it. I feel it, and especially and to engage people in different ways. And I know, especially in publishing, augmented reality has been used for children's books, and it hasn't stopped. And so I attended the London Book Fair, but there was only like one showcase of speakers of talking exactly about that, and it was for Little Oxford, and then they had done all of that. But I'm very excited about the possibility, and I'm so glad that I'm finally finished school and I passed. Yay! Really. So back to kind of GPT for a second. And at my lowest moments, I was going without sleep for the most last 2 weeks, just trying to get my finals in. And I was really honest. I was building my own, as like Taylor. I mean, I'm feeding it information as I'm going through this course going, I need to do this and I have to remember to that. And then I remember at one point, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning and I was like, I'm really tired. I haven't slept. I'm not maybe communicating properly. I need your help with X, right? And it came back and it showed me empathy before it answered the question. And it blew me away. It says, you need to take care of yourself. I'm like, oh my God. And so I was quite surprised at that. And then I came back the next day and I'm like, hey, guess what? I passed. I need help writing XYZ. And it's like, first of all, he says, congratulations. You worked really hard. And so I was like, wow. I was just quite shocked at the empathy I was receiving from something. And I'm also using ChatGPT, as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, to combine like 40-year history for my client. And I'm just feeding it. And it has a max of 20. I'm on the paid plan and it only let me allow 20 uploads. So I was kind of really upset at that. And then it told me I had to wait another hour before I could use it again. I was like, "What? I'm paying for this." But the results have been really good, and I've been able to come up with more concise work that's really helped me kind of streamline this process. And thank you again, Taylor, for sharing everything because some of the things that you said really resonated with me. And I'm like, okay, I can use it for this now and feed it this kind of information and or create my own bot or agent this way. So again, I'm really grateful to everyone who shares their information, especially Rob. You got me on my the first ball rolling with some of the ideas and things that you shared, and I think it was like a month and a half ago. But I just want to say, like, things are moving so fast, and I'm just, trying to. That's why being a part of this Friday call is just like going to kind of a the cool kids. Like you're hanging out with the cool kids who know what's going on, and then you can kind of take what you need from that, and then and share it with other people as well. So I wanted to just say that again. Thanks so much for answering my question, John, and I'm really excited to hear what other people have to say, what's happening. But again, have a good one, and thanks for letting me share.
Well, congratulations. Congratulations for all your hard work, B. I mean, I know that's just such an achievement and it's so good to hear and that, it doesn't matter. You can always be learning. And it's so great to hear that because it doesn't matter where we're at in our lives and careers that we could just keep pushing and keep adding on to that. I really appreciate that. And congratulations to you for, it's great to hear and I appreciate everybody coming. And I know that it is getting close to 7. So I was going to Allie was going to tell us a little bit about, we started out with use cases and for how we use the multimodal tools. So just so we can kind of maybe take away something that people can use in their daily activities with their content in their lives. Do you want to jump in, Allie?
I don't even know what I was going to talk about at
Oh,
this point.
well, we were talking about, let me
Yes,
see, because we have an agenda, but no, the conversation is just great, and we
right.
never
It's
know
just
what to expect, and it's just wonderful to have all these voices, and it makes it so thought provoking too. But I think we were just talking about exploring use cases and the business use cases for using GPT, Claude, and Perplexity. I've been
yes.
using a lot of things, but what have you been doing?
I actually wanted to pivot a little bit what I was going to talk about based on just what Taylor was also speaking to. And I've been doing similar type of things, but I wanted to focus maybe more so on how could potentially, others use it and giving some of these ideas like what you just said. And one of the things that I have found useful and could be helpful for you out there, and I'm also thinking about it from the standpoint that there's a lot of people in our AI community, but I also see that there's this dropping off. People are kind of, going somewhere, disappearing. They don't know exactly what they're doing, nothing's working, or there's like this, it's not necessarily a fatigue, but there's just this kind of falling off. And maybe some of the situations come from, for example, that although this is great creative exploration and it's exciting and it's new tech and it's something that will be very useful and more useful than it is right now, but how can you potentially do something with it, right? Like what are the things that you can do? So I'm taking it after, like, or beyond, or this is like the prequel to what Taylor is doing, right? So you can use whether it's ChatGPT or Claude. I use both, and I've also used Bard some, but I just am not happy with the results I'm getting right now. Not that I'm saying that I'm 100% happy with ChatGPT or Claude either. And then I throw in some Perplexity every once in a while if I have a more specific question, but it's still helpful. So for example, you know yourself, right? Or we hope that we know ourselves at least to a degree. But where I find that ChatGPT, for example, is really useful is when you can start to kind of process, or it's almost like an introspection, where you're going to throw it some things that who you are and what makes you who you are and how you operate. And I'm not saying some philosophical, really deep level even, but rather for, let's say that you are a AI artist or you love AI art, for example, or writing. How can you then use this? And for example, how can you monetize? That is something that a lot of us have been thinking about. How can you monetize the new information that you are learning with this AI technology, whether it's the art or video or whatever? And that's hard, or it can be hard. So if you start to kind of unravel this, or like I call it it's the layers of the onion. So you start to peel back these things. What do you like to do? And you could call this the ikigai as well, but I don't necessarily, you don't need to put labels on this.
Icky guy. Hell yeah.
You can call it whatever you want to call it, but you can say, okay, this is who I am, this is how I operate, this is what I like, this is what I think that I can excel in, this is what I can help people with, this is what people are interested in. And then how do I now put all these pieces together? And let's say, again, it's AI art. What does that look like for me? Because, for example, you might think that you want to do consulting, for example, or talk about the LLMs or whatever, but maybe that's actually not what you want to do. So this can be a helpful exploration of where you could then find potential to go monetize in your way that makes sense and you can be of best value for others in helping them whatever that they are doing, right? So this is kind of a more the prequel of, okay, where do I need to go with this and how can I, or potentially if you already have a business, how can you incorporate it into what you're doing? And then what does that look like? So I am using this on voice. So even in a car, I can literally talk to ChatGPT back and forth. So I'm not wasting time and just I'm usually saying, we're just going to have a brainstorming or processing session. I do not need your numbered lists of number one. This one, whatever. So, and I said, ask me questions. So give me pros and cons. And I'm operating really also from the level that I'm thinking about we are like learning here very much on how to talk to these different things. And even then we have to shift as there might be some prompt shifting or drifting, whatever you want to call it. But what about more people that do not know how to use that, then they would use it as they talk. So I'm actually using this very much like, what if I just talk like I talk? Because I also need to know what might be still the weaknesses and how I can kind of learn more about what works and what doesn't work, and then I can make adjustments. So it's exploration, observation, and at the same time, I'm trying to get something useful out of it so that I can then implement it into something. And I have discovered things that I am now putting into place that works for me, and more to come on that later. The other thing that I'm using it for, or you could use it for, is your idea bank. If you are an idea person like I am, yay, idea people, let's unite. I have ideas in my head all the time, every day. So if you have ideas, you can literally go and open ChatGPT and voice if you're on the app and just put it out there. And you're just saying, I'm just going to put this out here, and so that you are saving it, right? Because if we keep in our heads, it might get, lost somewhere there in the shuffle. So I have literally lists or threads of ideas, and then I can take them somewhere or workshop them and see if it's actually a viable idea. Because at the end of the day, one out of how many ideas is good enough. So I will end at that point. Hopefully that's some interesting information or something that you can use.
No, that's very helpful. Thank you. It's like, man, and what do you think about you the testing whether the threads will work or not based on how like things have been a little bit up in the air with the way content is working on this platform right now. It seems like it's shifted a lot.
It's shifting constantly, right? So it's, it's a work in progress, basically.
Well, thank you. The Idea Bank, I know about that. And Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to jump on what Allie said, just because I know you're going to close space. One of the things that LLMs are super useful for is the aggregation of data and unearthing uncommon connected the dots. I know that's not the way you're supposed to say it grammatically, but I encourage everybody, if you're really looking for ways to monetize that aggregation, use the mechanical advantage, have it sift through your world, right? And ask it specifically instead of brainstorming, painstorming. And I know that sounds really strange, but what you're trying to do, for those of you that have ever watched, Princess Bride, it's to the pain, the painstorming aspect of it, where you are asking it, hey, can you look at all of my skills? I know that they're mismatch. On the surface, I'm an author or I'm an inventor or I'm a consultant or I'm an educator because that's what I've done for the past 20 years. But I'm also a broker once upon a time. I hack schooled my kids. I have a black belt. I have all of these different auxiliary skills and talents that are not taken into account. And when you allow these models to have access to all these quirky traits that make you perfectly and wonderfully flawed humans that we are, it can identify a skill set that we have not used, or maybe connect skills that we haven't really put together in a very profound way. And so just imagine for a moment that one little aspect. It's identifying cool things about you. Now, take that information and say, hey, find me other people in the Twitter realm or X realm, I should say, or whatever platform. Find me those people. And what's fascinating is it compiles a list for you that now circumnavigates and breaks down all of the algorithm silos that you've been in. How many people here have noticed, let's say you do AI art, all X shows you is AI art. You don't get to see people who actually use AI art and print it on fabric. Why? Because you're not in that silo. Now, if you're using these aggregators to identify other use cases or things that you like, I thought it was fascinating that Grok picked up on the fact that I was a knitter or crocheter or builder of fabric. It had to really work hard to find certain ways to connect those things. Use that mechanical advantage in uncharacteristic ways, because what makes us human, what makes us delightful in so many different ways, is that creativity is it's not about the stuff, it's about how we use what's at our fingertips. And if it has the ability to aggregate and show you things that you did not know about yourself. I mean, a lot of times when we sit in social audio places like this, I can hear certain things about people, right? Because you have maybe an empathetic bone or you have that skill set. I can hear different skills that you may not use, because it's not in your wheelhouse, because you're so concentrating on consulting or you're so concentrating on selling art that you don't realize, hey, did you know that you actually have a wonderful voice and you could actually, voice some animation and you could do it in a really powerful way? People don't know that. So I just want to encourage each and every one of you, whatever tools you have access to, don't get the green eyed envy if you're not access to beta this or beta that. Use what's on your, your fingertips, what you have access to now, learn what it does, and find that mechanical advantage to unearth the awesome that you are, because you are. We have the coolest group here. So each and every one of you have a great weekend, and just know that your time and your presence matters, because it's a limited and scarce resource. And the fact that you can look to the left and the right of you and find your pocket family, those are the folks that are your co-conspirators. They're the 1-800-JUSTIFY call that says, yeah, you actually need premium. So, if you need the 1-800-JUSTIFY call, yeah, we're your people. So go on to greatness.
Now, Sarah, thank you so much, and that's such a great point too, because we're all constantly trying to figure out how can we get out of this silo, and what are we writing about? And everybody here has all these different experiences and backgrounds, and you see the level of content that people are creating, and it's so amazing. But you're right, I only see AI art. A lot of the time, and then I'm like, well, I have to go out and find even Rob's stuff or Bilal, Matt. I haven't seen Ali's post in forever. And it's like just certain things that we kind of get stuck. So how it might just be keywords or a couple of keywords that you include with your content, with your when you write about whatever. If I'm writing about a new tool or something like that, the way it's going to get pushed out a little bit further. I think that's how it still works somewhat. But then we need the frameworks. Rob, we never got to talk much about the frameworks. We were supposed to talk about writing frameworks, right? To teach people how to actually write and get their content seen. So maybe we can do that for the next space, because that it would be important to a lot of people here, because people still are trying to get over that barrier, to get over that hump. And last December I had 500 followers, and I kept pushing out all kinds of different content that I thought was really valuable, but it wasn't making it anywhere. So everybody here, we've talked about that before, and even Chris and Matt and everybody, we've talked about how it hasn't been that long that we had thousands of followers. So don't give up and just keep putting out content and trying to solve a problem or provide some value, and think of all these other ways that you can add to that to get your content to the point where it can make it through those silos, through the walls, to break the barriers. Thank you so much. I think that it is 7:05, so 7:05 Eastern time, so I guess we can wind it down. And this next week will be our last space of the year. So I'm going to take a 2-week break, and I think a lot of people here probably will, for the end of the year, to do some other things. And hopefully we can, I'm sure we'll miss a ton of information, and who knows what is going to happen before January, my goodness. But I wanted to go around and just let people say, tell us what's going on. Ali, anything happening? You were last talk there. And
Yes.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, please.
I am, yes, finishing up the year with getting things lined up for 2024. So this is my organizational time mostly, but I did pull up and start a new account on X, and this is focusing only on photographic images that I generate in AI. It doesn't need to be just Midjourney, whatever. And I'm calling it Faces of AI. So if you go under my profile, you can find, and follow if interested. And the idea is kind of, I want to document, and I wish I had started this earlier, and document the growth of what these people and their stories might be, and from the very early going, and as we're getting closer and closer to them looking very real. So who knows where it goes, but I'm having fun. So
Are you going to use like the same characters, or the same you just kind of keep reiterating or keep generating those characters the same? What do you mean by this, who these people are?
so it's called Faces of AI. So initially the idea is that, because I have about 50,000 images generated right on Midjourney alone. So I want to still continue to share them somehow, but not show just all on my feed. And for one of the reasons is that it never even gets shown anywhere. But I want to share them, and really just to keep exploring and having that creative outlet, which I love. And at this initial phase, it is literally going to be just some random images that I've generated or I am generating. And the idea is that even though these people are not real, they could be, right? And it doesn't also mean that they're just the people from this time or this era, and they could be some of the futuristic ones or something from the past or whatever. And right now, I'm basically just labeling it. So when I see the image that I generate, I think of the first word or the whatever first word that comes to mind. That's what I'm calling it. And the idea is that as I move forward, I will start giving them some stories. And then we'll see how it goes. And potentially it's going to be a group, each individually depicted that they are together in something. And then sometime maybe it's also going to be the same person once we get the character consistency right. And then I can start building perhaps some stories and things like that. So we'll see where it goes again.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Thank you. That's very creative. Appreciate that. Yeah, so go check her out and look at her profile. I saw that today, so I went and followed you. Let's see what's happening with the faces of AI. And AP, you want to talk about what you've been doing in your first week in a different position here?
Yeah, I guess look out for like the forum stuff. We're just like busy hacking away and doing fun stuff. Um, yeah, I don't really have much to share at the moment other than the forum Discord beta. Um, but yeah, we're building, and it should be fun. And we'll probably have more to share later, but not right now, unfortunately.
How is it with the access for the wait list? Just, I'm sure people have you opened it up some more?
Yeah, so we're adding people like daily. So we're working through like, well, without getting too technical, yeah, we're adding people daily. So yeah, if you fill out the wait list, we'll get to you.
And I want to mention if anybody that's listening, if you've been using the Beta Animate bot, you can fill out the form, the type form, right, to get more what do you call it, credits, I guess. And I was thrilled to do that. And then you get to go to the website too. That website is nice. I don't know if people that are generating in Discord on the forum, they have a website, and it's still a work in progress, but it's really cool because you can see the feed of all the generations that are in Discord. And then also you have your private feed, and it has all the details with frame by frame, and like your prompt and everything that you use, how many minutes it took the process. And so you can download it from there, and it's a nice sleek screen. So if anyone's using that, enjoy that, please go down and check that out. And that Beta Animate bot right now, it's free, so take advantage of it. And I'd love trying to just see what each type of motion is going to create. It's wild how it just does different things, and the different styles the prompt styles you can use. I posted that this morning with my Good Morning Friday. That was the forum, and it's 17 seconds that it generates. It's very clear and very crisp too. I'm amazed. I can't wait to see what you guys are going to do later, because you said you might add more things like adding music and things like that. The ability, that's what you're hoping for eventually.
Yeah, there's a bunch of like sort of things that we have planned. I can't like give away too much. But like yeah, like there's definitely a lot that you can do with the forum locally, and we want to like emulate that like into the self into the service. But yeah, thank you for the kind words on the website. And we actually just released like a wiki explaining like all the details more in motion. I was working on that with Human today. But if you check like the beta chat, that's in there. We just posted. I think Human posted that in there earlier today. But yeah,
Oh,
thank you
cool.
for the kind words. Really appreciate it.
Oh no, I'm rooting for you, because it's so exciting to see it like go to the next level, and how it's different than Deform was already amazing, but now that you can control it more, that seems like that's you have so many more options to use with it. So the video looks so crisp and clear. I really like it. So everybody, definitely check that out and support Deform. Um, and who are we going to next here? Bilal, I see you on my screen next. What's going on with you?
Hey, yeah, I'm glad the year is coming to an end and we'll have a little bit of a break. Hopefully, oh my God, I don't know what else could happen between the 8th of December and the end of the year. But I was side chatting with Matt about all the crazy stuff that's going to happen next March. If we go back to what happened this past March with, Silicon Valley bank crisis, GPT-4, and Midjourney V4 simultaneously. So that was fun. The plug I'll give is I started a new YouTube channel called Creative Tech Digest. Basically long form videos. If you've checked out Billy Effects on YouTube or TikTok, it's mostly short form visual effects stuff. So if you're into distilled insights on AI, AR, VR, sensing, robotics, and their societal implications, both the good and the not so good, go check it out. It's just Creative Tech Digest. I've got 3 more videos on the docket until the end of the year and a lot more interesting stuff planned. There's other stuff I do want to share about next year, but that'll have to be a future session.
Cool. Thank you for letting us know. Go check him out. I gotta go ahead and subscribe to your channel. And let me see here, Matt. But we didn't get to hear from you at all today. If you're still on the mic,
I'm here. Yeah,
so thanks for
I
coming back.
don't feel like I'm worthy of sharing today because I was so quiet. I mostly communicated in emojis today, but I have been here. I've been on this call the whole time, just kind of passively listening and enjoying the conversation. It was a great conversation today, and I will give a shameless plug since you're allowing it. My YouTube channel is about 15,000 subscribers away from 500,000. So go check out my YouTube channel over at youtube.com/Matt Wolf. I'm actually doing a giveaway once I hit 500,000 subscribers. I'm going to be giving away 5 pairs of the Meta Ray-Ban glasses as a sort of fun little thing that I'm doing for hitting that milestone. So if you're not subscribed to that YouTube channel, check it out. But other than that, thanks for letting me just hang out and be quiet and listen and respond in emojis all day today.
Man, thank you. Thank you for hanging out. And Matt has been coming here for so long. And thank you so much for just, coming and enjoying this with us every week. And that's just amazing. I cannot believe how much. And what did you start in January? What was your subscriber?
I had 1,200 subscribers in January. So 12 months later, I'm about to cross 500,000. I'm really hoping to do it by the end of the year, but I'm not super optimistic. I have a feeling it'll happen in January.
That's what I was thinking because I was like, I kept in my mind, I kept thinking, I think he had less, like it was like 1,200, 1,500. But then I started believing that I must have made that up and that you only had, maybe you had like 12,000. But that's crazy because, yeah, this has been quite a year. So you never know what can happen. And, you do great work. And we're so glad that you're there to go over all of these tools and every crazy thing that's happening and even the not crazy things and the news. I love the newsletter with the 2 different, the 2 different formats. That's so helpful. I'm trying to figure out how I can get my newsletter that it's hard because I try to pack too much into it. So I think that that's great how you did that and to have the tools and then have the separate editions. So thank you for giving us so much information and letting us come on this ride with you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And yeah, it's been a crazy ride. I mean, it took me 14 years to get 1,200 subscribers and only 1 year after that to get another 475,000. So it's been pretty crazy.
What a time to be alive. And Rob, what's up with you? Your course, I've the GPT course that I purchased and plan to implement some of the things Taylor and Ollie were talking about, and Sarah.
Yeah. Hey, if you like my ideas about prompting and AI, I've got 2 offers for you. One is Build Powerful GPTs. This is my new course on GPTs at buildpowerfulgpts.com. I know that they've still got subscription to the Pro membership on ChatGPT paused, so you're going to have that in order to really take the biggest advantage of that course. But people are loving it, been getting tons of 5-star reviews. And if you want to check out my other courses for a mere $47 a month, you can join Lennon Labs and get $1,350 in AI courses plus twice monthly, usually more than twice monthly, office hours plus a Discord server full of creators like you. So check that out. Oh, Heather, I'm sorry. We are getting some breaking Grok news. Grok has joined the Friday recap and has a parting message for us.
An exhilarating Generative AI Friday, folks. As we wrap up this week's recap, we've seen some remarkable developments in the world of AI, from advancements in new language models like that loser Gemini and me, Grok. Oh, and we talked about the future of AI generated TikTok, waifus, and some other stuff too. As we bid each other adieu, let's take a moment to appreciate the incredible progress made and the bright but slightly dystopian future that lies ahead. And let's say thanks to our host, Heather Cooper, and the amazing panel. Until next time, have a fantastic weekend. Keep groking, and we'll see you for another exciting Generative AI Friday recap.
That's right, folks. It was Grok on the show. You heard it first. That was definitely not a stunt involving 11 labs and only about 30% of the copy actually written by Grok because it was otherwise terrible.
Well, wait, but what did you prompt? What was your prompt for that?
I asked Grok to put together like a, let's see, what did I say exactly? Oh, not that window. This one. Write a good wind down wrap up for Generative AI Friday recap. And what it wrote was pretty good, but I had to throw in a couple of jokes in there because it wasn't funny enough.
Oh my goodness, that's so fun. We should have saved that for last. Let it take us out there. Oh, thank you for that.
I just thought it would be a fun bit to try. I have earbuds in and I put headphones over them, like I'm wearing two sets of earphones, and played from one headphones into the mics of the other headphones. So
Oh
hopefully
my
it sounded
goodness.
okay. Hopefully it wasn't too boring, but I just wanted
No,
to
that was and the voice too as well. Is the voice was from Grok? Like
know that if anyone who's listened to my podcast knows that was the voice of Chatty Gary, our announcer.
Oh, you're calling us out now because obviously I did not know that. Sorry. But thank you. Thank you. Well, Rob, thank you so much because since last December when you had your first course, and everybody, we didn't know what to do with Chat GPT, and you like formed all of the way that I even approach prompting it all. So thank you so much for doing all that you've done to compile all that stuff and, just to have all the resources that are available, and you keep adding more to it and iterating as you learn more. So thank you, fine tuning your prompt advice. But it is really a frame of mind rather than just giving specific prompts and teaching people how to approach it altogether and let so that you can continue developing different types of prompts that will help you in your personal business and in your life. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
And Taylor, if you can,
Yes, what an amazing space. I always love when Grok makes a cameo appearance. So that was a fun little Easter egg for us. And the Grok puns will go on, you guys. So yeah, I mean, I learned so much. I'm always taking notes. This is like the best little end of the week cultural salon of AI that I like could have ever imagined. So I always enjoy being part of this community and listening to all the incredible insights that this crew brings to the table every week. It's like this is the one chance that we can all just nerd out and not be judged or looked at with confused stares from people that you're over explaining AI to. So this was fun. Shameless plug. I write about growth and content creation and content marketing in a very non-technical, easy to understand any way that a dummy can do it type of way. So if you like that kind of stuff, go check out my newsletter. It's linked on my bio. And you should really look around and check out what all of these amazing people on the panel are doing. Subscribe to their stuff, follow them, and even just like around the room too, because there's some incredibly creative, talented, and technically proficient whizzes in this room that I would not have discovered otherwise. So thank you all for being here.
thank you, Taylor. And I see you down there, and I wanted to shout him out because his clothing line it dropped today. So if you see Tekala, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Tekchala no, it's Tekala, like Valhalla, but he has a fabulous clothing line. And he's one of the most prolific ideas prompters. He can give you some interest. I mean, just amazing stuff. There's so many that are here in the room. I'm just looking around. I do not want to leave anybody out, but I just saw him there, and thank you because he's not normally on this call because it's way too late. But please go check out his profile. And I don't know if I haven't looked to see if you decided which alpaca you were going to go with, but it's amazing development for all the work you've put in. So he's just a wonderful creator and the nicest person out here. So thank you. I'll end it up and let you guys know that by the end of the year, hopefully, or January, maybe my YouTube, experts here can help me finally get my YouTube channel up and going, because I have tons of things to talk about and to present. So maybe Matt can throw me a little bit, and Bilal, I appreciate that if you could help me out a little bit. Some, but it may be like collab on something. But I'm working on that, and I'm gonna in I think about a week or two. I get to participate in something pretty fabulous at Columbia University, the Digital Storytelling Lab. I'm so excited about this, and I can't wait to tell you guys about it. But on the working group for that. And it's a lab without walls, and it's just such an amazing thing. Professor Lance Weiler, and some of you know him under a culture hacker. But thank you for the invitation. And I'm looking forward to that, because it's just learning how to tell our stories in different ways using, AI, using every type of discipline. It's people that are there's thousands of people around the world, and they have some amazing projects that they've worked on about misinformation and how we consume information, and just different types of like things that living art. Memories are malleable and they change, and how can we find ways to tell these stories using the tools that we have? They include like architects and urban planners, artists, all kinds of different people, developers, builders. It's just amazing, and it's another way to open up the education and to break down barriers, basically to make it more accessible for people to participate in universities such as Columbia. So you don't have to be a student there, and they put on a lot of different presentations. So I'm really excited about that, because just talking about different ways we're using AI and to tell stories, and that's what it's all about. So thank you all so much for coming, and it's been a great week. I'm sure next week we'll have a good one too, and that'll be our last space for the year. And I appreciate everybody showing up every week and supporting this. It wouldn't be the same without this community. But take care and have a great weekend.
Bye, everyone.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Bye. Thank you all for coming.
Thanks, Heather.
Bye bye.